Hello Saints, welcome in for another midweek video. I'm almost finished reading a biography of Matthew Ward. Now, if you don't know who Matthew Ward is, he and his two sisters, Annie and Nellie, formed a gospel or Christian group called Second Chapter of Acts. They toured and recorded for many years, especially during the Jesus movement. And he wrote an autobiography of his life and all the things that he goes through. And I would recommend it. The title of the book is, interestingly enough, My Second Chapter. But anyway, in that book, he writes this. I'm just going to read a few lines from his book. He says, "For years I had a warped perspective of God as a father figure. I think it stemmed from losing both parents at such an early age. I believe he was either 11 or 12 when they died. I knew God loved me, but I had a tendency to view that love more as a generic love, one that God has for everyone. I found it difficult to see God as someone who thought about my needs or loved me in a deeply personal way." And then he went through cancer, and he says, "During my ordeal with cancer, the Lord began to show me in big and small ways that I was truly on his mind and that he was indeed concerned with those things that concerned me. I learned to see the Father heart of God for the first time, and I began to see myself as his son. Of all the lessons I learned, that by far was the greatest." As I read that, I thought, how many people deal with the same issue? How many of us, when we see the words, "For God so loved the world," we say, well, that's good, that's nice. God loves the world, and I'm part of the world, so he loves me. God loves everybody, so he certainly loves me. But sometimes we forget that love becomes personal. It becomes about us. God has the capability of loving each one of us at the same time. He has the capability of being in the same place or being in all the places, and it seems like he's in the same place. And I wanted to remind us today that God loves you. He does love the world, and you're part of the world. But even more personal than that, he loves you. I thought of just a few phrases that David made when he was writing the Psalms. And one of them, the first one that came to my mind was this: "My glory and the lifter of my head." Now, the word "my" appears twice in that sentence. He didn't say he's our glory or our lifter, and he is, that's true, that is true. But he said he's my glory, and he's the lifter of my head. In other words, that's a personal thing that God thought about. Another place he writes, Psalm 121, he writes, "My help comes from the Lord." Whose help? He didn't say our help, which is true. Our help does come from the Lord. But he said, "My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth." And by the way, when you make a statement that your help comes from the Lord, always follow it with "who made heaven and earth." Why is that so important? Well, it helps to build your faith and our faith when we remind ourselves that the one we've put our trust in is the very one who made the heaven and made the earth. And if he made the heaven and he made the earth, he can surely handle my little world. He said, "My help and the glory, my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth." In Psalm 40, he says, "He drew me up from a pit." Once again, it is true that he drew us up from a pit, but he drew us one at a time. We don't get saved in a group. We don't get saved in a collective. Now, you might be in a room with a bunch of people who accept Christ at the same time, but that's exactly what it is. It's other people who've accepted Christ at the same time. We don't all accept Christ together. He said, he drew me up from a pit of destruction. And all of us, before Christ, we were in a pit of destruction. some to varying degrees, some worse than others. He said he drew me up, and he said he placed my feet on a solid rock. Placed my feet. He drew me up from a pit of destruction, and he placed my feet on a solid rock. And I want to tell you that God drew you up. Not just everybody else, but he drew you up from a pit of destruction, and he placed your feet on a solid rock. Jesus said in one place, he said, the very hairs on your head are numbered. He said, don't be surprised that God cares about you. He cares for the sparrows. He said he keeps an eye on the sparrows. And if he cares for the sparrows, he cares for you, because the very hairs on your head are numbered. And of course he says, you're definitely worth far more than a sparrow. And then as I was reading that, I thought of Psalm 3, and I just wanted to go through just a few verses here, not the whole psalm. He said, and of course this is what I read earlier, he said, you, O Lord, are a shield about me, my glory and the lifter of my head. I cried aloud to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy hill. And I know I'm pounding a point home, but I've got a feeling that Matthew Ward was not the only person who dealt with the idea that God cares about all of us, but maybe he doesn't care about me personally. He said, I cried aloud, and he answered me from his holy hill. I laid down and slept. I woke again, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid of thousands of people who have set themselves against me all around. Well, I just want you, and I want me, to walk around and live our lives with this awareness. While we are included in a congregation and a church and a family, and all of those are important, that congregation and that family is made up of people, individuals, who have a separate and individual relationship with God himself. And that's because you are on God's mind. You're in God's thoughts. The day you were born is evidence of God's thoughts toward you. The fact that you have a birthday is evidence that God continues to have thoughts toward you. And it's also evidence that he's not done with you in this earth. But don't ever think of yourself as just another one of God's kids. You are another one of God's kids, but you're not just one. To him, in your world, you're it. He thinks of you. Now, thank God, he can think of you and he can think of me at the same time. He's that kind of God. But he's not just a generic God. He doesn't just offer generic love to all of his children. But each one of us could write our own psalms like David did, and we could say, me and I. Now, this is not selfish. This is not self-centered. It's not just pumping ourselves up, but it's a recognition that we serve a God so great, so vast, and so full of love in every way that he can extend that to us on a personal level, on a personal basis. And so I'm titling this video, Don't Take It, Wait. Yes, take it personal, because God takes it personal, and he is personal toward you. He loves all of us, but I want to let you know today that he loves you. Now, go out there and have a great week, great day, and act like somebody. Good day.